There we go. Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome. Thank you for being here. It's a beautiful day, and we have a beautiful community and beautiful facility. Thank you, Mayor. So we're going to start our meeting with the pledge. I've asked Commissioner Gardner to lead us, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
By way of tradition, we always ask the mayor of the community and the city, the host city, to come forward and welcome the UDOT family to the community. And also, you have a few minutes to state your feelings. Mayor Harris, you have the floor.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to welcome all of you. Really nice to see all of your faces here at Bountiful City this morning. Just want to give you a quick update of a few things we're doing here in Bountiful. It's too bad the shades are down. It's nice to block the blinding sun, but then you can't see the beautiful view. And if you look behind you, those mountains are full of trails that are being developed that we are really excited about. We just put an RFP out for fiber here in Bountiful. We also are working on, of course, the issues of the day: affordable housing, water. You know what those issues are. But I'm so grateful to have a partner in you. I was served on the city council for 8 years before becoming mayor, and I have seen the importance of working together. And I am in awe of what you do. I had no idea, and coming to some of these meetings, I'm realizing how much it is you do and how the things you do are crucial to our planning. And so we just appreciate you so much, and the partnership, the collaborations, the friendships, and welcome to Bountiful. Thank you so much for what you do, and we hope you have a wonderful meeting here.
Thank you, Mayor. Now let us have the introduction of the commission and the commissioners, and then we go back to the UDOT family. I will start to my left, please.
Good morning. Wonderful to be in beautiful Bountiful. Natalie Gochner. I work at the University of Utah and live in Murray and represent Region 2, which is Tooele, Salt Lake, and Summit counties.
Good morning, Jim Evans, Commissioner, assigned to Region 3. Work with my wonderful counterparts here. Region 3, for those that don't know, goes across kind of center portion of the state. We go from Utah County all the way out to Kevin's beautiful land out there in the Uinta Basin and the counties in between. So it's great to be here with you this morning.
Good morning, Lou Kramer, Commissioner at Large. I live in Salt Lake City, but my family roots are all here in the Bountiful area. So good to be here. I should also say, because of a wedding anniversary, I was in Hawaii last week and spent a wonderful dinner with former Farmington Mayor Jim Talbot, and even more importantly, his wonderful wife, Karen, and he wanted his greetings to be shared to all of you. Aloha, mahalo, everything else. He's probably smiling because it's a little bit warmer in Hawaii today than Bountiful, but what a pleasure to be here.
But thank you, Mayor, for no ice on my windshield. I don't know how you pulled that one off, but I was very grateful. My name is Donna Lai. I'm a commissioner at large. My home is in Cedar City, where I work for Southern Utah University. And I, as a commissioner at large, I like to keep an eye on the rural projects.
Thank you.
Kevin Van Tassel, I'm Commissioner at Large. I live in Vernal, Utah. It's good to be here with you. Had some family that's lived here in Bountiful. One of our good friends whose coach's drill team was raised here in Bountiful. And so we've had some relationships. It's good to be here.
Thank you. And my name is Nagi Zanadi. I'm coming from sunny St. George, sunny and warm St. George. And this morning somebody told me, this is sunny and warm. I said, no, this is not sunny and warm. I can tell you what the warm is. And I'm going to use Monty's story. He and I were serving at the Dixie and Pew last Tuesday. He said that he went up there to the car to call someone, and he put his phone on the dashboard. While he was calling, it was on the sun, it was getting warm, and suddenly phone shut off because it was too warm. That's why we call them warm, sunny, and warm in St. George. So thank you for being here. Commissioner Menlove, is she going to be here today? Well, we hope that she will show up. So we'll have another commissioner, Commissioner Rhonda Menlove, Region 1. Now we're going to start the introduction of the UDOT family. Carlos, would you please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Carlos Braceros, Executive Director, Utah Department of Transportation.
Terry Newell, Deputy Director. Lisa Wilson, Deputy Director.
Heather, why don't you start there?
Program manager of Region 1 director of the older Region 4 director.
Peter Asplund is policy and legislative affairs, and I live in Farmington, so I'm glad to be in the second best town. Thank you, Elder. Legislative affairs.
Robert Stewart, the director.
Thank you. And I get good information that Commissioner Menlove is going to join us online. Okay. Not yet. Okay. Thank you. As you can see, that it takes a whole village to raise a kid. And we have a lot of people here to really try to help get our state and our roads are safe for the travel for everyone, not only residents and citizens of Utah, for those that travel and come into our state. At this time, I would like to also acknowledge and welcome our federal partners, Ivan Marrero and Brigitte Mendel. Thank you for being here. Now the fun part, Davis County Commissioner Rob Stevens is going to be coming and he has some good stuff to talk about. So please, you have the floor.
I always appreciate the opportunity to be able to stand before you guys. This is absolutely one of my favorite things that all of you have been doing. I've got a couple of pictures I want to pass out here.
If my memory serves right, though, you always hand the candy, not this kind of stuff. So then what happened?
I was in St. George.
Oh. Is this my early Christmas gift unwrapped?
Just a little history on this. This right here, this bike, and I got a few others here. Don't want to kind of look at a little bit. This right here is not just a bike. This is a 1964 Schwinn Stingray. And it is a class bike. And the young man who drove that in 1965, after it was given to him as a Christmas present, had the opportunity to ride this bicycle on what was to become I-15. We rode this bike down at the intersection, which is 232 or the Hillfield Road, and was able to, where the mounds were being built to create that overpass, we rode the bike all over the place. Now, there was another young man also just down the street a little bit, not too far, little Stewie Adams, who he also rode his bike where it was being built. But I got to clarify one thing, and I know he's not here to go along with me, but little Stewie, he didn't have a Schwinn Stingray. He didn't have the class. He had an old Western Flyer that was green that had a little basket on the front of the bike that he put his little Flash Gordon lunchbox when he went to school with. You know, and one of the things that was kind of interesting between he and I, as we grew up right there in that area, is that he never understood why the fifth grade girls didn't like him and why they liked me. And I kept saying it all has to do with your mode of transportation, Stuart. You got to figure that part out. Now that carried all the way through high school because I drove a Camaro. He drove a Studebaker. And he could never figure out why the girls didn't ask him to the girls' dances. So that's just a little history, and I'm glad he's not here to be able to defend himself. Now, the thing that I want to just talk about, the reason why I show this bike on this is because of the history that has taken place since this bike's inception. And it's amazing in Davis County to see how all the things have changed over that 55 years. And it's wonderful. And because of your predecessors and the things you have done and the work that have taken place has been absolutely amazing. But we're also now again to the point with all the things that you guys saw yesterday as far as the West Davis, Highway 89, and all the things that are taking place, is there's still more that we need to be able to do in Davis County. And I think it not only carries for Davis County, but it starts to carry further north. I can take the Mountain Green interchange up in Morgan County. That becomes a very, very important thing to Davis County. The I-84, 89 interchange is being worked on. That becomes a very important thing with transportation. In Weber County, you can look at the 12th Street down to, I think it's 48, on getting that road taken care of, which will lead down to where eventually West Davis will turn into West Weber Highway, and that. And the reason I say this, I'm gonna give you just some statistics, is that we went ahead and did on the West Davis. We did a study, which we appreciate the KOCM money that came from the Wasatch Front and from Andrew, to be able to do a study of all the interchanges that the West Davis is going to create. And just to give you a few figures here, is that the taxable value of what these interchange areas can become as far as commercial is going to be close to $2.2 billion of new taxable area. We'll also probably add in an additional 9,500 jobs, which also then turns around and basically brings in around 16,000 residents to this area. That is why this is so important. It's why the things that you gentlemen and Natalie and Donna do is so important to our area and what we're able to do for the future. I've told some people and that one of the good things about being old is all the history you can see. One of the bad things about being old is you're not going to see a whole lot of history coming in the future. But the footings that you guys are able to plant and help us here in Davis County leads to great things. One of the things that we've tried to do as all leaders throughout the county is to basically take that far-sighted look and try to see what we can do to continue to stay ahead of the curve and be able to continue to make Davis County and Northern Utah one of the greatest places to live. With that, appreciate you all. You're wonderful, and thank you again for the opportunity to do that. I do have to run up to Garden City, which is another area that needs a whole lot of help, and do a couple things up there. So I'm going to stay for a few minutes, but then I have to leave. So, yeah, this
Thank
bike
you.
is still in cherry condition. I want you to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a similar bike in our Pine Valley Ranch, but the saddle is the horse saddle that we train the kids on them. So thank you for sharing
Yeah,
that
well, you know, it's
picture.
interesting on this bike, you know, with the 4 kids that we've raised, they've all wanted to be able to ride this bike. And Dad has said, get your own bikes. This bike is going to be protected. It's
So-
very good.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Commissioner Menlove from Garden City has joined us.
okay. Commissioner Miller, would you please introduce yourself and your jurisdiction?
I'm Rhonda Menlove. I'm Commissioner of representing Region 1.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Okay, item number 2 is a local area presentation by Region 1. For those of you that missed the tour, it was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to see the community close up. It was beautiful, and the bus we didn't have to get out and push it either, so it was great. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. So I'm Brett Slater. I'm the Region 1 Program Manager. So when you do a meeting or presentation, you're supposed to start, kind of slow, build it up, and then you get to your high point. So, how am I going to follow that? Seriously, he able to articulate and present really well. So, I'm going to present on our large area projects, especially the ones that are taking place here. Before I thought I just would throw up this slide. It's kind of cool. Winter is here. This was taken last week at the top of Monty. So we always try to keep Monty open almost till after the deer hunt. And that major storm came in. We were really struggling to keep that road open. We ended up having to close it down a few days early because when a snowplow actually slid off, and we decided it's time. But winter's here, and some of our winter passes are now closed. It's just kind of fun. So 12th Street, that's our 39. If you take 12th Street all the way up past Pine View Reservoir, then you're going to pass Causey Reservoir, and you're just going to keep going up that canyon, you'll get to Monte Cristi.
For a minute, I thought you asked me where's Monty. Monty's sitting in the second row, right? Where's Waldo? Right there, the second row. Thank you, Brad.
Okay, so we have 4 major environmental studies taking place right now in Region 1. The first one we talked about a little bit yesterday. This is the I-15 Farmington Salt Lake EIS. They're in the purpose and need phase. The project will, the environmental study will most likely be wrapped up early 2024, in the spring of 24. The next one is the 24th Street interchange. This is a new EA. We had completed an EA a while back. We ran into some issues with UCRI and the railroad and their servicing of the businesses down in the business depot, and we were not gaining traction. So we are starting a new EA. We started it a few months back, and this is with an avoidance of disrupting those services. So this will still be a full interchange at 24th Street. The next one is the I-84 US 89 interchange. About 3 weeks ago, they received their class of action, which means the determination of what type of environmental study was going to take place. So this was determined that it would be an environmental assessment, or an EA. And with an EA, it starts kind of a clock, and you generally try to finish up an EA within 1 year. So most likely that project will be completed by this time next year. Then the last one on the list is I-84 at Mountain Green. This is this will be a new interchange. We have not determined the class of action of this interchange yet. We are actually just in the process of, we've hired a consultant. We're working through the negotiations, and this will take a good year and a half before we have a completion of that study. Walking into some of the large projects. The first 2 that I'm going to talk about, we actually drove yesterday, which is kind of fun. So this is the US 89 Farmington, from US 89 to I-84, the widening and the reconstruct. It was fun because over the last 2 years, we have driven this job now twice. The first time we weren't able to get on, well, we were able to get on a good part of it, but you could see all the embankments, the fills, the walls that were just being built. This time, that road was probably near 85–90% complete. And it will wrap up next year to full completion with a program amount of $526 million. And here's just a picture that we drove through yesterday. Some of the drone photos that you can get now of these roads, it's just cool. It's fun. The next one is the West Davis Corridor. This is 14 miles of new road. And I actually really enjoyed the tour yesterday. I thought Rex did a fantastic job. And it's fun to get out on a road when you have probably about 70% of the asphalt down, but no one else is on it. And just be able to see what was happening. And actually, if you were paying attention when we passed some of those interchanges and the workers were up on the bridges working, they all stopped to look at our bus and wondering, what were they doing here? So it's kind of fun. So this is actually kind of fun. So this is a drone photo from earlier this year. And if you remember, Rex kind of pointed out the sewer treatment plant. So this is all paved, and the trail is actually paved through this section. So that's how much work they were able to complete this year on that project. That project should be completed in 24. So they're doing everything they can to see if they can open that by the end of next year. So the next two projects are both in Roy and the Sunset Clinton area. The first one is the 5600 South. This is a reconstruction of the interchange there, and it's a widening of 56 from I-15 all the way down to SR 108. It's currently programmed at 238 million. With inflation, that will not get us all the way to 108. So we are working through some issues there. This is a progressive design build project. So we have hired a contractor, and he had brought with part of his team, he brought the designer. They're working on the design right now for the entire corridor, and with the intention of opening packages or releasing packages next year for construction. So the next one, just south of 5600, this is a brand new interchange, the 1800 North interchange. We are in design. This will be a design bid build project. We are currently it's funded at 90 million, but it needs a lot more funding to be able to build what needs to be happening here. This will take the freeway, and it's going to move the freeway east to give a little bit of positive separation from its 1900 West or SR 126. That separation is critical for those weaving movements to get on and off the freeway. So we have been in coordination with Hill Air Force Base and MIDA extensively. And so the intention is most likely to be able to construct in the summer of 25. There's a lot going on with that design and what's happening there. With that project, kind of a sister project to this is the widening of 1800. This will be, so this is a brand new gate. They will build a new gate at that location. So you have the Roy Gate, and then this is a gate in between the Hillfield, which would be off of 193. So, but they are looking to build a new gate there at 1800, which should take pressure off of both the other two gates. Should help with the movement. So with 1800 North, we have the option that we could combine these projects at some point if we needed to, but currently they are separated out. So the widening is separated from the interchange. So the widening goes from about 250, or where it ties into the interchange project, and goes all the way out to SR 108, or out there by Walmart, if you know that area. This will widen this road to a 5-lane road. Some of the big features of this one is a grade separated and overpass over the UTA and the Union Pacific lines there. That will add a lot of connectivity from Clinton to Sunset. If a train crosses, that's really the only access up into Sunset, unless you're going all the way around to 56. The next one is the Shepherd Lane interchange. So we drove through, this will be a new interchange. So we drove through this area, and a part of this project is a new pedestrian overpass that will be next to the Park Lane structure. Programmed out at 109 million. The design of this project is almost completed. It's basically done. We're working through agreements with Union Pacific. We have stuff into them right now. We could get things back anytime in the next few weeks or up to 6 months. So it kind of depends on how that plays out. We're also working with an agreement with the golf course. If we can get things worked out there, we will advertise this project next spring. If not, it will get advertised later when those agreements are finalized. And then I thought I'd highlight over the last 2 years. Last year, we in Region 1, we were giving 11 AT projects, active transportation projects, out of the AT TIF fund. And the year before that, there was 3. Each of these have a local match, and so the local communities put together and they put a proposal, and then projects are selected off of a list. So I'm showcasing. There's 2 slides. There's 14 projects on here. What you're seeing right here is this is up 12th Street, Ogden Canyon, SR 39. This is where the trail currently ends. This trail actually runs from the mouth of Ogden Canyon all the way out to West Haven. It's continuous. It's a really neat trail. This is a major hurdle for this trail to continue up the canyon and one day be able to go all the way up to Pine View and eventually around Pine View. So this one's actually the top. This is the Ogden Canyon Shared Use Path. This project is only to build a bridge over the Ogden River. That's the first major hurdle. But there's a lot of fun projects, and it's kind of fun to be able to work with all the communities because they've all presented these trail projects to get people outside and get people moving. So I just thought I'd ask a question.
I don't know who to ask the question to. I was thinking to direct it to you, Carlos, but I just want to hear someone say perspective on this type of list compared to what it would have been like 15 years ago or something. I mean, it's really incredible how much of this active transportation stuff's coming to the commission. Who's the right person to give us perspective?
There's been a dramatic change. I would say that you would go back to, there's always been trails that have been done almost exclusively by the local governments, the cities and the counties. You know, probably the biggest trail system that we got involved in was in the 90s with the Legacy Parkway. And that was the first time a trail actually became part of the purpose and need. I'm going to stretch my mind here a little bit, but I think we were looking at that active transportation taking 2 to 3% of the demand off the top before we even got into the process of saying we needed to have a facility there. But the project that Terry shepherded for 10 years, Mountain View Corridor, has an extremely extensive trail system in Washington County, working with our region down there. They've done an amazing job. But it's really been over the last 2 to 3 years that the commission has had the tool to provide funding for a list like this. You've probably programmed upwards of $130 million for money to pass through to local governments. They match it at 40%. And so you wouldn't have seen a list anything like this. Now, the federal government has provided money for, we used to call them enhancement projects, and that became a bad word. And now they're called, what do we call them now? It's got a transportation alternatives, the TA projects. And that's provided money that, you know, gave states and local governments flexibility to do projects like this, but it was a relatively small amount of money. So this is, you're right, Commissioner, this is new in the last couple of years.
Thank you. I just wanted to just feel that for a minute.
Oh, and so what Carlos was saying, this is separated from the TAP program or our say sidewalks to the programs that we work with the locals. So this gives them a chance to be presenting, and they bring a pretty heavy match to these projects. So there is quite a bit of an investment in these projects. It's kind of fun to be a part of them.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
I realize we're doing a lot of these in our meeting last week with the Wasatch Front Transportation Committee. There was some discussion about who's going to do maintenance. And I know there is not one size that fits all, but I think as we go forward, each of these projects, that needs to be established as we begin. And so there's no confusion of, is the city going to do it? Is the county going to do it? Is the state of Utah going to do it? And that'll come into our financing and planning as we go forward, as well as theirs. So just make that statement that it's already being discussed, and we've had, you know, there's a pretty robust discussion about it in that meeting. And I think that it's one that we need to get, if we're not, I'm sure you are, but you know, some of these projects, when you get spending $3 million, $4 million maintenance, if we build them and then do nothing, pretty soon we have nothing. So just for that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'll add to that. Commissioner Van Tassel, you're exactly right. Going back to the trail I started with on Legacy Parkway, we built it, and then when we finished it, we gifted it to the local communities, and it was a concern to those communities. It was an unexpected gift that came with price tag. And when Terry worked on Mountain View Corridor, that was an upfront agreement with those communities, so they knew what was coming. And all of these are coming with the upfront agreement that the communities would be maintaining them. Now, the proposal that Governor Cox laid out a couple weeks ago And I want to thank Commissioner Zanatti and Kramer for attending that. We just over here in Woods Cross talking about a statewide trail network that we're going to be working with the legislature to try to implement. Our thoughts on that is that would then become a state responsibility to operate and maintain those facilities built under that proposed program. But we need to be clear up front. You can't, building stuff is fun.
Maintenance, isn't it?
But maintenance and operations are expensive and critical.
Thank you.
Just add that every project on this list already has an agreement in place. And most of these projects are funding pass-through. That means the locals will take ownership of the project. They'll begin to build it, and then they will bill us as bills come in. And then what we do is we pull off that percentage, their match as those bills until the project is finally built and funded. So with that, that's what I was going to present.
Well, that's $1 billion or $2.
Any question from Brad? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We encourage your mayors and the city councils, of course, city managers, county commissioners to take these video presentations and share with the community and let them know how many projects been done, how many is underway, and how many will be in the future, because it's a lot. You can see millions of dollars coming to your communities. So please help us to spread the news. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comments, and we have another wonderful partner, Wasatch Front Regional Council. Andrew Gruber will speak to us, and then Mitch Shaw will read the online comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, and to all of my colleagues and friends at UDOT. I'm Andrew Gruber. I'm Executive Director of the Wasatch Front Regional Council. It's so great to be here with you today. I'll just offer a few brief comments and perspective. Just a few weeks ago, we were able to participate in the UDOT conference. And Carlos did his remarks, which are always very meaningful. And Mr. Chair, you remember right after Carlos did his remarks, I think you and I were both feeling elated. I know I was. Yes. I think you gave me a hug, which wouldn't surprise anybody here. But we were elated because what Carlos was talking about there was that conference is not just about roads. In fact, it's not just about UDOT. It's about all of us in the transportation industry, and it's about all users and all modes of transportation. And I was elated by that because this approach, this message is what we have been talking about all together in Utah's Unified Transportation Plan for years. As we grow, the fastest growing state in the nation, we know that we can't meet all of our travel demand just by building new roads. We have to build new roads, but we have to provide choices for transit and for trails, as we've been talking about. As Commissioner Gochner noted, this is a sea change in what we're seeing in this state. And so it was really just a wonderful thing to hear, to see, and to feel that partnership as we're going forward. It made me very optimistic about the future of our state and our transportation system. To that point, you already noted the governor's announcement that we had the pleasure to be at together in Woods Cross a few weeks ago about creating a statewide trail network to build on what the local governments have done. And I think this is going to be one of these types of pivot points where 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years in the future, we will look back on this significant commitment that we're making together to active transportation, to the ability for people to use trails and biking and walking as a means of transportation. We will look back and we will think we made the right decision for the future of Utah. We had the foresight to do it. I think it's going to be critical for our state. So I'm so thrilled about that. One more specific thing about what's happening in this area, the I-15 in Davis County EIS. The work that's happening there also is an embodiment of this principle that UDOT is thinking about all users now, doing it differently than EISs have historically been done around the country and even in Utah. And Tiffany and the team are doing an incredible job on that, intentionally thinking about all the users, the community contacts for the local communities, to think not just about cars, but to think about transit and biking and walking and the intersections with the community. It's the right way to think about projects. And I commend UDOT and the whole team for working on that. The last thing I'll note is, Wasatch Front Regional Council, we allocate funding for projects, but the primary responsibility that we have as a metropolitan planning organization, along with the Mountain Land Association of Governments and then our MPO partners in the Cache Valley and in Dixie, is to think about and plan for the future. We develop our regional transportation plans as UDOT does the long-range transportation plan for the rural areas of the state. Again, all of those are rolled up into Utah's Unified Transportation Plan. We are in the fourth quarter, so to speak, of the 4-year process to develop that next version of our long-range, our Unified Transportation Plan. So we just concluded a series of workshops. We did 8 workshops all around the WFRC area, which again is Salt Lake, Davis, Weber, Southern Box Elder counties. We're going to be doing them in Morgan and Tooele as well in partnership with UDOT. But we just concluded 8 workshops where we had literally hundreds of mayors, county elected officials, city council, planning commission, engineering and planning staffs from all the communities coming together to think about and talk about what the plans are for the future of transportation in their specific communities, as part of the region, as part of the state. And that's in addition to all the public outreach that we've had. And so those discussions and that engagement has been very meaningful as we think about the future of transportation in this state. And I want to express appreciation for my friends and partners in the regions, in Region 1 and Region 2. They were at every meeting. The region directors were there, the planning staff was there, the folks from the regions were participating in true partnership in all of those meetings. And that again is just an embodiment of the way that we do things here in Utah. We collaborate together with the transportation sector, the local communities, to make sure that we're having good mobility and safety and good air quality and ultimately great quality of life, because that's what this is all about for the future of our state. So again, thank you so much for the great work you do. It's great to be with you, and thank you for the partnership.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, I have to follow for a minute. That morning of the conference, before conference started and before we heard the inspired message from Carlos, Andrew and I were just talking about the how quality and the caliber of the exhibitors, people attending, all those that they were really taking the courses, presenters, and we were just wishing, maybe thinking about maybe one of these days, the whole state of Utah and surrounding states come together, become just the community of providing best ever transportation solution. And right then after lunch, lo and behold, Carlos shows up with this inspiring message. If you remember also years ago, before it was like, I don't know, was the kind of taboo that says we can talk about the things that you're not supposed to talk. He gave 10 commandments, if you remember. Beautiful message. I still remember, I've still written in my memoirs that how beautiful he dictated each one of the items that what should we do, not only for the state of Utah, for the communities around us and for our country. And the last conference, the October, he added one more commandment, serendipity. Beautiful message, Carlos. And that just gives another idea for us to go forward. And I remember the last word, which was emotional, and I remember all of us got emotional. He said, love. We have to include love in our work. Love one another and work together to make this state the most beautiful state, which it's already. But thank you, Andrew. Thank you all the local leaders. Thank you all the region directors. Thank you all the commissioners, mayors, working so beautifully together. This only happens in the state of Utah. Most of us have traveled and know the communities around us and other countries around us. This love that Carlos talks about is only happening in the state of Utah. But we need to spread it. Don't be selfish. Don't keep it to yourself. You spread the love and let us. This is a season of This is a season of Thanksgiving. So let us share it with everyone come to contact with us. Thank you. You have something to say?
Oh, I wanted to say amen to that. I've been in several states in the last 3 or 4 months, and there is nothing like Utah. And I know Andrew and I are both from back east originally, and to have Andrew come and be such a great contributor, it's just huge. So thank you for that and for the feeling of we're in this together. And they talk about the Utah way. I mean, this is not by coincidence that we have these amazing things happening here. It's this result of collaboration, cooperation, communication in this great state. So
Thank you.
footnote to that wonderful story.
Thank you. Mitch, are you ready? Thank you.
So as was mentioned, I'm Mitch Shaw. I'm the communications manager for UDOT's Region 1, and I have a public comment here from a gentleman named Matt Hastings. He does not specify where he's from, but here's his comment. Interstate 70 was stolen from Utah, and US Highway 6 is dangerous because of this. Many of you know that Interstate 70 had a planned western terminus in Spanish Fork, and it had looked like this was going to happen. Then our state was blindsided when the terminus was changed to Cove Fort. While this interstate helps move a lot of goods through our state, it does little to serve the majority of the people that actually live here and doesn't do enough for Utah's natural resource industries. US Highway 6 from Spanish Fork to Price is one of, if not the most dangerous highways in our state. It's time that Utah gets back what was taken from them and use federal transportation dollars to do it. I urge the Utah Transportation Commission to start making this a priority now, start the environmental impact studies, and get the funding from the feds for the interstate highway we deserve. It's for the safety of those who live here and travel this busy road and for the economies of central and northern Utah.
Thank you, Mitch. Item 4 on your agenda is a federal highway report, and Ivan, you doing it or Bridget? John? Oh, sorry. Was there any other public comments online or in person? There's no charge for the first 3 minutes. Seeing none. Ivan, you have the podium.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Ivan Marrero, the Division Administrator for the Federal Highway Administration Office here in Utah. And thank you again for giving me a couple of minutes to bring a couple of issues related to the federal program to your attention. First, I want to thank the region for a very nice tour. That was a great tour yesterday. It's amazing to see the size of project Region 1 is taking on. And good to drive the West Davis Highway construction. That project brings back a lot of memories. I believe that was the last environmental document that Federal Highways had authority over before we turned it over to you. So it definitely brought back a lot of memories from all the issues we addressed on that project. So good to see it progressing so well. I just have a couple of quick items for you today. The first one deals with Buy America, and in case you're not familiar, I think it's been 40 years or so. For the last 40 years, federally funded projects require that only domestically produced steel and iron products can be incorporated permanently into those projects. So the states are very familiar with that, and we have a really nice process in place to ensure that only domestically produced steel and iron products are incorporated into our projects. One thing that happened last year when the infrastructure Job Improvement and Jobs Act was passed about a year ago, actually a year ago on the 15th, so a couple of days ago. It added it expanded Buy America. It expanded the Buy America requirements to construction materials and manufactured products. So the question then becomes, what is a construction material? It required that the Office of Management and Budget define construction materials. So they define construction materials as glass, sheetrock, lumber, plastic and polymers, and am I missing one? There might be another one in there. Anyway, it did expand beyond steel and iron to these other products. So as you would imagine, it would have been a little tough to just all of a sudden require that this new requirement be incorporated into projects. The contractors, contractors need time well, the states need time to develop special provisions. The contractors need time to procure those new materials and make sure they're domestically sourced and manufactured. So we, on May 14th, Federal Highways granted a waiver for construction materials. It was a temporary 180-day waiver that basically waived that requirement for construction material for 180 days. But that waiver expired on November 10th. So that means that as of November 10th, all federally funded projects are required to include these new requirements, limiting what kind of materials can be used on our projects. One thing that, so that's where we are today. So in a way to kind of, we heard some feedback from a lot of the industry in the States. And so one of the things that we've done last week, we issued a couple of proposed waivers that hopefully will alleviate things for a little while. And I wanted to just present those to you today. The first one is has to do with it's called that waiver of certain contracts and solicitations. Basically, what it does is since we had that initial waiver in place, it allows contracts that may have been solicited during that period and now maybe going to contract after November 10th to still retain the previous conditions. So they would not need to comply with the new construction material definitions and the expanded. So it expands anything that was entered before November 10th, which is when the waiver ended, can continue as such. And it also anything that was solicited before the waiver was issued and may not have been entered into contract until March 10th of 2023 can also continue. So hopefully that provide a little relief for the industry. And again, this waiver is up for comments, and the comments are due by November 20th. Any waiver that we issue in Buy America has to be published on the Federal Register, and we need to address any comments that we receive from the public or the industries or the states. And the website there provides a link to where this waiver can be found. So this one deals with the contracts and the time of the contracts. A second waiver that we are proposing, I think it's one that's going to be a little more beneficial if it does pass. And this one has to do with the dollar value. So it's called the de minimis cost, small grants, and minor components waiver. So this one, what it does is it would waive the Buy America requirements for where it would allow non-domestic construction materials in the amount of $1 million or 5% of the total contract amount, whichever one is less. It would it would waive the requirement for contracts that are below $500,000, or it would allow up to 5% of, if you have a what's the word I'm looking for, minor components in some sort of product, it would allow up to 5% of those components in cost to be up. It would allow up to 5% of that material to be of non-domestic components. So again, and this second waiver is also up for comments until the 20th of November. Any questions on that one? Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Imagine me with questions. As you added those items, Ivan, that you mentioned, how can you give me an example of how that impacts a project that we might have? It's when you say asphalt, that seems like it's something that we do here. So glass and polymers, maybe that's something that we could source better, more financially abroad. But help me understand an example.
We're hoping that the comments will that we receive on these waivers will help us. But I can just tell you that yes, as anytime you limit your source, so now you're saying that only items that can be produced domestically can be used on federally funded transportation projects. You're limiting your sources, so therefore there is a potential that prices will increase. I would imagine that's going to be some of the comments that we receive back on these waivers. As far as the specific impacts, that's I think if you ask a state DOT, they would tell you, yeah, that's a increase to our project. That's definitely increasing the cost to our projects. I know in my time working with federal highways, I was part of a big project back east. It's probably the biggest project going on at the time. And we received calls from manufacturers in Brazil saying, you know, we can get you that steel for 50% of the cost. However, the law is the law, and we cannot, we have no authority to do anything about it. And I would refer them to their congressman, whoever the congressman for Brazil was at the time. I think anyway, so the law is the law, and it does put a little bit of a strain on state DOTs and contractors, because they do have to then just get their materials from a much narrower, limited source.
Thank you.
Any other questions by America? Yeah. Just quickly, the second one, we did get a request for funding with the repairs to the, I believe it's called the Cottonwood Wash, is that right? Project so this, the commission is familiar with this project. I know it's been presented before. This is a bridge that was undermined with due to some heavy flow back in 2021. We had a lot of rain down in the Blanding, San Juan County area. So sustained damages, and it looks like the repair is going to be about $8 million. So that request has come in. We're in the process of reviewing it, and we will be making a decision on that one soon. It looks like basically the repair will be to provide looks like the structure is going to remain, but they're just going to work on the, are you going to build a new structure or just the foundation? A whole new structure. Okay, so they'll be replacing the bridge with a new one with a more scar resistant system. So that was just the other thing I wanted to bring to the commission's attention. We're just in the process of reviewing that request. And as always, I want to finish by bringing this to the attention of everybody. If with all the grants and programs that we have for US DOT, this DOT Navigator is the place where you can go in and get whatever information and assistance you need if you're interested in any of our grants. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any other questions.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Monty, while you're here, would you please give us a refresher about the project that Ivan mentioned?
Morning, Monty Aldridge, Region 4 Director. Yes, the project that Ivan discussed was a result of, as he said, large storm events that caused an erosion of the sandstone, which actually they spalled off and undermined the footing. And so we actually, Chris Peterson, when he was with the department still, we got a group of engineers and flew down and analyzed it, and were able to do an emergency repair project. And got it done fairly quickly, not quite as fast as our local partners would have liked it, but we did it in, I think it was about 75 or 80 days. And then as part of that, as we analyzed it, it became clear that the existing spread footings were going to continue to be at risk from large events. And so the best decision was to move forward with a replacement project. And so hence the application for that emergency funding to do. So the existing repair is in place, and it's functioning well, but the need to replace the structure exists. Does that answer your question as well?
Yes, thank you. Item number 5 on your agenda is UDOT scoreboard, and there you go. Carmen Swanwick and Troy Peterson will present that item.
Good morning,
morning.
Carmen Swanwick, UDOT Project Development, and I'm going to give you our project delivery update today. Thank you, Heather. Okay, we're just going to jump right in right now with our project delivery status. We have about 51 projects that are going to be advertised within the next 60 days. You can see here these 5 past due, and I'll kind of show a little more detail when we get down further into these dashboards. But as of the current fiscal year, and again, that would have started in July, we've advertised a total of 57 projects and about $284 million. And we're really on time when we're looking at our goal for advertising. Over the last month, you can see we advertised another $76 million as of our program. There we go. And as I had said earlier, you saw the 5 projects, and you can also see them here when you scroll into this. Really, those projects are working with the railroad, Navajo Nation, and trying to get some agreements through the environmental document. So the PMs, we're just working through those agreements, and hopefully within the next year you'll see those come through. And one of the projects will actually advertise next month, so you'll see that one come on. But here you can see the blue starting. That means we're doing a lot of more scoping of our projects. And that really happens this time of year in the fall as we really look to scope our future projects. Okay. If you wanted to get down into these numbers, there is a little dial up here that you can go through to see the time frame. This time frame, it looks like it's actually set to the 2021. So really, over the last couple of years, we're about $1.3 billion worth of projects. Going down to the project counts and where we are with our construction contracts, looking at last month, we have about 162 projects under construction. You can go in on these. About $430 million are left for payment. And just in the last month, $1.4 billion have been paid. Moving into the contractor payments, as you can see, just with the trend, we're getting in, there's a lot of work in October. November hasn't come in, but it's really in line with paying out contractors for the work that's been done during the summer months. Getting into the contract award versus our engineer's estimate. Right now we're, in line. Our engineer's estimates are coming in a little bit higher than what the bids are coming in at, and which is good for us. It's probably a little higher than normal. I think we've been a little cautious given the inflation and some of the material prices. So we're just trying to be extra cautious in our estimates at this point. And that brings me to the end of the update. If there's any questions. All right.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, Troy Peterson, Operations Director. Let's see here. I get opportunity to update you on our little bit of delay there. Okay. On the Zero Fatality Strategic Direction dashboard. First thing I'd like to just one thing I'd like to bring your attention to is our fatality rate. Each month we talk about that, where we're sitting our fatality rate for 2022. We're currently sitting at 0.92, which is down from 2021. Hopefully that trend continues on. One thing I'd like to point out is our vehicle miles traveled. We're at about 26 billion vehicle miles traveled statewide to date. Those numbers are up. You'll notice I think by the time we get to the end of the year, we'll surpass our beyond record number of VFT travel within UDOT. Or within Utah, sorry. With that, let me step down here to our traffic fatalities. Currently, we're sitting at 289 fatalities on our roadways. Another somber reminder of all the great things that we're doing out there on building roads and doing things that we can, that there are this negative consequence at times that we have that we end up losing lives. But right now, one thing I'd like to point out, of this 289, we're at about 112, make sure I get that number correctly. 112 of those are what we classify as our vulnerable users, bicyclists, motorcyclists, and pedestrian. That breakdown for pedestrians, we're sitting at 48 pedestrians so far this year, 15 bicyclists, and 49 motorcyclists. That's roughly 39% of our total fatalities so far this year.
Is that higher than normal?
It is. Yeah, I mean, on the bicycle side of things, we're much higher than we've normally seen. We've seen a spike this year. We've taken some time. We've asked our team to kind of dig into the data, some of the things that we've been able to look into on that item, and keep in mind, this is preliminary, so some of the stuff, we don't have everything, but right now, like from the behavioral side, we're seeing about 7 of those fatalities that from the bicycle side are DUI related, and then 2 from speed related issues, and another 2 from aggressive driving. The other interesting fact is that 80% of these ones that are affecting bicyclists are happening on a clear sunny day, not at night or in different lighting conditions. Normal, just clear pavement, nice day outside. So kind of interesting. Scroll down here on our suspected serious traffic injuries. Those are up as well. We're roughly 15% higher than what our reduction goal. I shouldn't say goal, target that we were hoping that we could achieve, as well as our traffic crashes. Those are also up. And you can see the trends as you look at the graphs that over the years.
Yes, please.
Suspected serious crash. Good question on the word suspected, but serious crashes mean ones that aren't fatal. So they could be anywhere from injuries from life-sustaining injuries. Could affect someone's quality of life moving forward. Now, suspected, I don't know. Yeah.
Come to the mic, please.
Rob White, Region 1 Director. I think part of the reason they're called suspected is because some of the data that we get in is preliminary, and until the final police reports come in and we're able to determine that, then we classify them as suspected until we get the data and are able to sort through the police reports.
Very good, thank you.
Always nice to have your predecessor in the gallery. Let's see. And that's really all I had to update you on from the zero fatalities. Unless there's any questions, I do like to end my time up here with a reminder of the 5 safe driving behaviors, and that's always wear a seatbelt, drive focused, calm, alert, and sober. With that, are there any questions?
The holiday season, we have the 100 days in the summertime. I presume that the holiday season continues to be a risk, given the activities and drinking and other things.
Sure. I mean, I hate to say, oh, it looks like we're in a trend where we're starting to see fewer fatalities. That reminder of get-togethers and people out traveling and things that happen. Yeah.
It's darker and having more active transportation. Do we keep track of how many bicyclists are out generally? And like we have our vehicle miles traveled. Do we have our bicyclists on trails traveled? Or I just wonder if any of that, because there's more folks out there.
There are more. I don't know if I may have to turn to a friend here on this one.
That looked like he was looking at me for that one. So we do have some trails that we have monitors on to see how many people are using them. We don't have a widespread plan for that. If we have a larger program in the future, I think that's something that would be important for us, is to understand how many users we have on the trail systems. But currently, we have a few trails that are monitored. Some of the local governments do some monitoring, and we try to, get the data that we can, but we have like one trail that we monitor right now. So looking forward to in the future being able to do a little more of that.
And of course, the point of trails is to make it safer, because if they're away from the highways, that's a benefit for everybody's safety. Thanks, Troy.
Go ahead, please. Quickly. This is maybe a difficult question to answer, but are there legislative champions that we can identify for safety issues on our network?
I'm gonna look to Carlos to help me here on this one. I'm deflecting a lot today.
Mr. Chairman? Yes, absolutely. In fact, the legislature, I would say, took a much more active role in wanting to better understand the safety issues on our transportation system this interim session. So we did a very comprehensive discussion for probably almost 2 hours in May. It was followed up with another conversation about overall safety in October. And legislators are proposing some bills to try to help the safety issue.
Thanks, Carlos. That's where I was getting
It's
at.
a
I would
fair-
expect with what we've seen and what we've been through, that there's some public policies that are being brought to bear.
Yes, there is.
We partner very strongly with our DPS partners to come up to help identify what some of those might be.
Nagi, I think as a commission, we should help as much as we can with that. I don't know what the public policies are they're considering and thinking about, but we all feel the, sort of somberness of the data.
I appreciate hearing, seems like more and more than I used to, of highway patrol spokespeople talking about slowing down, be kind, be courteous. They just can't do enough of that, because I was coming to the meeting yesterday, middle of Salt Lake Valley, and I was probably doing 73, 74, 75, somewhere in there with the traffic. And some car passed me in that fast lane. I couldn't even, it was that fast. It was well over 100. This was like in the middle of the day. It wasn't even like without traffic. So they just need to keep it up, because people are just not getting it. Some people just aren't getting it. So.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you.
I would like to also take a time to congratulate UDOT and specifically Region 3 Rob Clayton for receiving American Society of the Civil Engineering prestigious award for I-15 Technology Corridor. Thank you, UDOT. It was wonderful write-up. Appreciate it very much for all you do. Item number 6, rather, it is grant update, and Ben is out of town or vacationing or just no show, and Ivan is going to take the part.
Good morning, Ivan Hartle, Financial Programming. Ben does send his wishes he could be here instead of allowing me the additional opportunity today. I think you would prefer to be here, I'm sure. Today, we've had a good month in grants as we get working into our stride, understanding more of the IIJA opportunities, and being able to respond better as a department. To review our spreadsheet to begin, our first couple of items on top are still consistent with what's happened with last month. An open grant application for the utility detection. The 5 scenic byways, we have still not heard any award or announcements on the scenic byways. Already submitted after the scenic byways, the I-15 South Iron County, no response yet on the MPDG grant opportunity. The Mighty 5 middle mile, this is a fiber optic between the national parks and then the bridge project I-80 that we discussed last month as well. Getting into our new items, there's a grant submitted between Region 4 and Salt Lake City for the Reconnecting Communities pilot program. The next notice of funding opportunity it was issued the 1st of September, but did not have a submission deadline until the 1st of December. Was the Provo sub-rail consolidation. This is removing 7 miles, I believe 7 miles of railroad, reducing railroad crossings in Mapleton, Springville, and Spanish Fork. Thank you, Rob. That will be it. The submission is due on December 1st. Our target is to submit early next week, the application. The next three grant opportunities that were actually due today, they were submitted last night. The ATTAIN grant, Advanced Transportation Technology and Innovation. It's a statewide expansion of connected vehicle systems through the UDOT operations group. Next item was the SMART grant, Strengthening Mobility and Revolutionizing Technology. It's enabling trust and deployment through verified connected intersections, also through the UDOT operations group. And the last one that was submitted also from the SMART program was the digital twin technology prototype. And on this grant, grant applicant information, if we go to the UDOT homepage and scrolling down into the policy and funding section, we have our Transportation Commission website. And if I click on the Transportation Commission website, at the very last link on the page is this grant information. So this is how this information is published. Anyone can come in here and click on the grant, the notice of funding opportunities, the fact sheet, the federal highways, or the US DOT fact sheet. We have our project fact sheet as well as the application that was used. So that's the grant updates for today. Our last item still is the wildlife crossing. It was a proposed grant or an anticipated grant that was done in our last legislative session that we're holding the funding, waiting for that notice of funding opportunity from our US DOT.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay,
You're gonna stay on for the next item?
you got me for a few more minutes. So
Please do. Go ahead, proceed. Item number 7.
item number 7 is our consent agenda. In the consent agenda packet, there's the information containing the October 13th staff update meeting and tour in the area, and the October 14th commission meeting, as well as a list of projects returning funding. The projects include, the projects have been awarded and been identified with budget amounts that can be reduced on the project. So included in the packet, and I'll just quickly scroll through. Included in the packet was the staff update minutes, the tour, the Santaquin area tour minutes, and then the Friday, the October commission meeting minutes as well. And our last item is that list of projects that have been identified for budget recovery, where we'll take this money, this amount of money off the projects, return it back to the programs to be reprogrammed within our next need. Our request today is a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda items before us.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have the motion and a second. Any other questions? I just want to also compliment Heather again for the wonderful minutes that she takes and so organization. So checks us in the bus tours and make sure everybody's getting in, getting out. Yesterday she was worrying about the Tiffany. Where is Tiffany? And Rob had to tell that Tiffany didn't show up for the tour. Thank you. And those beautiful asterisks that she puts in the middle of the minutes and notes that I was wondering, what is that asterisk for? I have to follow it up. Those are the one attended online. Thank you, Heather. I did not know that. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed. Thank you, Rhonda. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, item 8, for the program development business items for the commission this morning. Our first item, 8A-1, is the US 91 3200 South to 2000 West intersection realignment. This is a funding addition in the Transportation Solutions Program of funding request increase of $2.3 million, totaling a little over $8.6 million. The scope of the US 91 3200 West to 2000 West, 3200 South, 2000 West intersection realignment project is to consolidate several intersections coming off of US 91 into one signalized intersection. This will require the closure of 3200 South and 2000 West at US 91, moving those accesses to a new signalized intersection at 3000 South. The project estimate was updated using unit pricing from recently received bids on projects with similar scope. This updated estimate showed a need to increase the cost on several bid items, including right-of-way, traffic control, road base, and pavement. This project is scheduled to advertise next month in December of 2022. Shown as on our map here with the new alignment. Our request today is a motion to add funding to the US 91 3200 South and 2000 West intersection realignment project as detailed.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 8A-1 is approved. Thank you.
8A-2 is a Young Street Bridge and Connector Road funding addition from local government funds, increasing 1.1 million, a little over 1.1 million for just under a $5 million project. The Young Street Bridge and Connector Road project will build a new bridge over the Weber River, allowing better access to the high school and other facilities in Morgan. The project was advertised and came in over the engineer's estimate. Morgan City would like to award this project and has agreed to bring the additional funds to this project. This project is scheduled to be built in 2023. Located here on the map, Young Street here. Map overlay. Included in the packet of materials is a letter from Morgan City talking about the contribution, agreeing to the contribution. Our request today is a motion to add funding to the Young Street Bridge and Connector Road project as detailed.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments?
It's no brainer anytime that they're gonna throw more money towards a project. I mean,
That's
that's
exactly
it's
right.
wonderful every time we do that.
So what is the policy of UDOT, Carlos, that we get the money first before we start a project, or wait to finish and then get their check? And the contribution department
I can answer part of it.
also.
There's an agreement that will be established between UDOT and the local government. Sometimes we'll take the amount up front and put it into the bank account, and then as bills come in, we take a portion of their money, a portion of the funding from the state to pay the bill. Other times, we'll work with the municipality and local government and bill them periodically as we accrue charges.
Thank you. All in favor of this project, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8A-2 is approved. Thank you.
Our next item, 8A-3, is a funding request for the I-80 milepost 50 to milepost 60, $2.3 million, with the funding coming from a mix of the Transportation Solutions in Region 2 and the High Volume Road Program. The scope of the I-80 milepost 50 to 60 project is to remove and replace 1.5 inches of asphalt. The updated project estimate, or an updated project estimate, was recently completed using unit pricing from recent bids of similar scope. The updated estimate showed a need to increase the cost of several bid items, including mobilization, asphalt, and rotomilling. This project is scheduled to advertise later this month.
Where on I-80 is this? Here's the map.
Out by Clive.
You know, when you have a little town called Aragonite, that it's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Our request today is a motion to add funding to the I-80 milepost 50 to 60 project as detailed.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second that.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments, clarifications? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 8A-3 is approved. Thank you.
Our next item, 8A-4, is a pedestrian bridge repair located in Region 2, an increase of $230,000 for the Transportation Solutions project. The scope of this project is to fix the girder on a pedestrian bridge that crosses I-215 and Wasatch Boulevard near 4300 South. The bridge was struck by a vehicle traveling northbound on Wasatch Boulevard. The impact caused horizontal deflection in one of the girders, along with a crack in the bottom flange and lower portion of the flange. An emergency temporary support has been installed, but a longer-term fix needs to occur. So as ways discussing this project, the $150,000 of the current project value was from the region contingency program that does not need to come forward to the commission. So this increase of Transportation Solutions would need to take this project to the commission. This request of funds would remove the temporary support and fix the damaged section of the girder through heat strengthening and welds. Located here on 215. You can see the deflection from the girder, as well as cracking that's occurred.
Would you please explain the heat strengthening process for the commission?
I would love to, but even better, I think I have a phone a friend that could do a better job.
Please.
As Carmen walks up, is this right by Churchill Junior High? Is that what this bridge is? I'm seeing nods. Okay, great. Just making sure I got it.
Sure. Hi, Carmen Swanwick, Project Development. For the heat strengthening project or process, it's exactly like what it sounds. They basically just heat the steel till it gets to the point that it moves, and it heats it to the, and just forms it back into the position it's supposed to be. So it's really straightforward. I don't know how else to explain it. They heat it and kind of mold it back into place.
Okay.
And then for the strengthening aspects, I don't know what the final design on this is yet, but they will weld the pieces together that are split. And depending on what that looks like, you can always bolt on additional plates on either side and bolt them together to even strengthen it more.
Okay. Thank you,
Great,
Carmen.
thank you.
I thought the picture on the right was interesting. The reason why there's a hole drilled is by drilling a hole in front of the crack will stop, runs into that hole, and then will not continue to spread. I don't know.
Do we, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, please.
Does the insurance company on the truck that hit this, will they contribute? Do we get some collection back from them?
Everybody wants to participate.
I like it.
Robert Stewart, Region 2 Director. This is actually one of those interesting circumstances that we sort of discussed earlier today, where this bridge, this pedestrian bridge, was installed with the original I-215 construction, but the details of who owns this bridge are nebulous. We can't seem to find it. And so this also is a bridge that spans Wasatch Boulevard, which is not a state road, and then 215, which is obviously an interstate. And so when this bridge was struck, we don't know when it was struck, and we don't have insurance information about it. Typically, yes, though, if something is struck, generally when our bridges get hit, there is a disabled vehicle, there is a ticket and insurance claim that goes along with it. And we will charge insurance companies for that damage. But on this one, it's one of those nebulous areas of who owns this, who's going to pay for it. And when it first got hit, or when we first noticed this is where we added region director contingency funds to it, because it was an unserviceable bridge that we needed to get fixed right away. That's why the supports are up there. That's why we're coming in with this emergency repair to set it straight. There's still the discussion of what happens to this bridge when it reaches the end of its useful life, which I-215 was constructed 40 years ago. So we're starting to reach those discussions, but this plays right into that trail discussion of whose bridge is this, who owns it, who's responsible for the maintenance of it.
Thank you, Robert.
As I remember, that bridge is used quite a bit.
Yeah,
As I travel that road, it seems like there's always people on there.
right. And it connects the middle school, right, to the community. So it is one of those that is used.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other questions from Rob or Robert or Carmen? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 8A-4 is approved.
8A-5, this is the US 191 project, US 191 SR 113 Charleston to US 40 Heber funding addition, located in Region 3, with a funding request from the High Volume Road Program of $800,000. The US 189 SR 113 Charleston to US 40 Heber project scope is to preserve the pavement on US 189 from Charleston to Heber by overlaying the roadway with a new layer of asphalt. The cost increase is due to an increase in asphalt, fuel, and labor costs since the project concept and estimate from 2021. Shown here on our map, alongside the airport in Heber. Our request today is a motion to add funding to the US 189 SR 113 Charleston to US 40 Heber project as detailed.
I move for approval on this.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
That road is just getting to the point that it is ready for it.
Any other questions, comments from Rob?
Add more travel time.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 8A-5 is approved. Thank you.
8A-6 is the I-70 Floyd to US 191 Crescent Junction project, the funding addition from the High Volume Roads Program in Region 4. The scope of the I-70 Floyd to US 191 Crescent Junction project is to road a mill 1.5 inches and then add a 2-inch asphalt overlay. The additional $3.2 million is needed to address the inflation related to the asphalt and rising construction costs. Located here on our map.
So basically from that rest area to the interchange.
That's like a 50% increase just in asphalt. I guess construction costs, that's
Yeah.
not even close.
No.
Right.
This item itself, to me, is a testimony of that how Carlos and the rest of the crew in the regions listen to our concerns. I drove this road from my CIB meeting returning home. And I know this, and I said, wow, I need to get somebody's attention to this. It's already here. Thank you.
This section is all asphalt currently, right? There is a concrete.
Well,
Again-
that is correct. There's no concrete in this section. It is asphalt. And as it generally, as a point of note, our asphalt prices in this area, we were estimate at about $90 a ton, and it's up to over $150 a ton currently.
Wow.
I think your question's about 43.8%
Yeah.
increase.
That would be it.
Does the remote location also play into the cost?
Absolutely. As I looked at the agenda and I looked at the other regions and the degree of their increases, I was jealous that we had larger increases in our area that because of location does play a factor.
Thank you, Monty.
I would make that motion that we approve.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments?
I just think it's great to see that we are preserving, like our executive director said, that's not as, sometimes as, what's the word, sexy as some other things we do, but it's so critical for what we're doing. And if you have any extra asphalt, take it to my downtown Salt Lake City streets and we could use it down there.
Well, that is not part of the motion, though.
It was not. Unsolicited comments. I'm a very
All
bumpy road.
all in favor of the original motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 8A-6 is approved. Thank you.
Our next item, 8A-7, US 89 Mount Pleasant to SR 31 in Fairview. It's a funding addition also from the High Volume Roads in Region 4 with an amount increase of $1.1 million. The scope of the US 89 Mount Pleasant to SR 31 Fairview project is to provide a profile rotomill and add 1.5 inches of asphalt overlay. A profile rotomill will reduce the peaks and valleys in the ride and allow for a smooth overlay. The additional 1.1 million is needed to address the inflation related to asphalt and increase in the cost estimate of the profiling rotomill and address rising construction costs.
And the rural location.
Nearby where somebody that we care a lot about lives.
Does this, do we recycle the rotomill into the new mix?
Here comes Monty.
Yes, sir. Our specifications allow us to recycle up to 25%. We call it wrap into the mix. And depending on the mix design that the contractor approves, they do that on occasion. Not every project, but that can be done.
So that does save us a little money then.
Yes, sir. And when they mill it and take it, we do get the salvage value of that, given the competitive bid process.
Thank you.
Our request today is a motion to add funding to the US 89 Mount Pleasant to SR 31 Fairview project as detailed.
In honor of the governor, I'll make that.
I'll second in honor of the Commissioner Van Tassel.
Okay, we have motion and a second. Any other questions? I have one question if Donna didn't want to ask. So profile rotomill, what is that word itself, the profile?
Profile rotomill, as the road has peaks and valleys along the road, this smooths out that up and down motion on the roadway. So it's a smoother
Surface.
travel.
Okay.
Add whoop-de-doos. That is the technical term, I believe. I think that's what Brett told me, right? Whoop-de-doos.
Okay, with that then, all in favor of the item number 7, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 8A-7 is approved.
Thank you. 8A-8 is the Utah Electric Vehicle Charging Station Project Phase 1. This is a new project. The National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure, or the NEVI formula program, provides funding to build a national network of electric vehicle chargers. Approval of the state NEVI plan is required to access available funding. Utah's NEVI plan was approved by Federal Highway and the DOE Joint Office on September 14th, 2022. The available funding is listed here with the federal funding in fiscal year 22 and also the available funding for fiscal year 23, as well as the required 20% state match. This project will install electric vehicle chargers at locations per Utah's approved NEVI plan. So shown here on our map, the light blue chargers are EV chargers that have been completed, and the orange are the EV chargers needed according to the plan. So in Tremonton, Brigham City already has an installed charger. I'll scroll down to the next section of the map. Morgan, Layton. Now,
So Crescent Junction and Thompson Springs is so just like a few miles apart. Why do we have so close those stations located?
Do you suppose?
Lyle, I guess everybody's looking at you.
In the plan, Lyle McMillan, Director of Strategic Investments and Project Manager for the NEVI project and program. As we were doing the planning, one of the requirements of the plan is to identify locations that make it so that EV chargers that meet the NEVI criteria are no less than 50 miles away from each other. And one of the things that you see at these intersections is we tried to eliminate where we could the requirement to backtrack. So if somebody wants to go west, they don't have to go to Thompson Springs to charge up so that they can then go back the other way. And so there were some instances where we had to put them close together on I-70, but it really helps the north-south functionality from Moab to Wellington. So that you had to look both ways, think three-dimensionally, so to speak, in terms of making sure that there's access to fast DC charging every 50 miles.
There's nothing south of Beaver on I-15.
They run out of money.
There actually is. One of the things that we identified when we were putting this plan together, we identified the ones that are in blue were actually identified based on available data. They were identified as not being NEVI compliant. And when we got the plan approved, I started making calls because the three sites on I-15 are actually Electrify America charging sites that, according to all of the available data, did not have fast enough chargers. So I called them and asked, what can we do to partner with you to upgrade those existing chargers so we didn't have to invest a lot of funds to build a new one that would compete with them? And they chuckled and said, the information is incorrect. Our installations are NEVI compliant. It's just that sometimes when there's an electrical challenge, they derate, they call it. And then it sends that information through the series of tubes to these databases, and then they change the rating on them. But when they fix it, they don't change back. And that's one of the challenges that we're working with. So we got 3 quick victories, which is very helpful in terms of our budget for the remaining 15. We identified 18. 3 of them were quick. In fact, 4, because Richfield was a discretionary exception where we asked the joint office to give us an exception from that 50-mile base, the just differences between each other. And we figured out that Electrify America's installation at the Walmart in Richfield is also NEVI compliant. So we are able to eliminate one of the discretionary exceptions. So if you go further down south from Beaver, there are already fast DC sites that meet the NEVI criteria, so we didn't need a plan for them.
Can I ask one other question?
Please.
Sure. The 3, I think the number was 3.2 million for our match. Where is that money coming from?
That's where he can.
so that match money will come out of our statewide pot of the state transportation solutions program.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I'll add one more thing if I'm able. We don't really intend to spend very much of that match. Our program that we're going out with is intended to seek and incentivize private sector and public sector partners who will bring the match to the table. And then we would hope that through our contractual agreements, they will construct, operate, and maintain them for us.
That's terrific. So the federal government doesn't mind where the match comes from. Doesn't have to come from it. Just
No.
has to come.
However, in order to make sure that the funds are unlocked and available, we're asking for the match today. And then in the future, if the program is as popular as we expect it to be or hope it to be, then we would roll the match over into the subsequent 3 years of the program.
Thank you.
Well, this is very exciting. What is the expected completion date of the ones that are on there on the main highways? How soon do you think they'll be up and running with all blue instead of all orange?
That's a big depends. We are hoping to complete those 15 installs within calendar year 2023. And there are some mitigating factors, and one of those is that there's two things that we're doing concurrently. We're working on this project, and we're also we don't want to get too far out ahead of the final rule and regulations for NEVI, and we are anxiously awaiting the decision by the federal partners on the Buy America waiver. There is in effect today a Buy America waiver that expires at the end of the year and starts phasing down. And if we can get that extended, which we've asked for another year, then we can use chargers that are available and existing today. If not, then that giant sucking sound you hear is $5 billion worth of demand for a very low availability product, domestically sourced.
Very interesting.
Oh,
Thank you.
Ivan taught us about that earlier, so we're checked out on that.
We're very hopeful.
Now we have a really great example, though.
Of course, by the time we come to the end of the phase one, we may have new technology and some, we don't even need to have these stations, right?
Well, and if that's the case, our out-of-pocket expense will have been very minimal.
That's right. Thank you, Lyle.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
if I may just clarify, if we do end up with that scope change, we would come back to the commission. So this scope and the money that we're requesting today would be for the 15 to 18 chargers. And if that scope change, we would come back and request a change to the project, just so you're aware.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Lyle.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Thank you. Our requests today are the motion to approve adding the Utah Electric Vehicle Charging Station Project Phase 1 to the current STIP as detailed.
It's going to be a race to who makes that motion, I think,
Go
but I'll
ahead,
make it.
please.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and second. All in favor of item number 8, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 8A-8 is approved. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if I may make a comment.
please.
6 weeks or so ago, I took the opportunity, I had to go to Salina for a meeting, a funeral of a family member. And I drove Highway 89 from Highway 6 to Salina. And compliments to the region. I could not, when you don't travel these roads every day, you kind of remember them as they were. We've made a lot of improvements on Highway 89. A lot of projects that are very beneficial. We've widened shoulders. And I think Region 4, thank you. UDOT, thank you. Those are, I think, indications again of what we have when we have money available to take care of these. And like I say, when you don't travel them every day, or you put a few years, Highway 89 is, I'd almost say, a completely different road than what it was 8 or 9 years ago. So thank you.
Thank you for that comment.
Our next one, 8A-9, is an information only for Region 2 and Wasatch Front Regional Council. The scope of the Parkway Boulevard, 2700 South, Mountain View Corridor to 6400 West project is to widen and reconstruct Parkway Boulevard between those 2 points. Bike lanes, sidewalk, curb and gutter, and street lighting would be included in the project. The current project estimate showed the additional funding was needed as a result of inflation in the cost of labor and materials. The additional project funding will be provided as shown. Wasatch Front Regional Council will add $1.9 million and West Valley City adding $3.5 million. This TIP amendment was approved at the Wasatch Front Regional Council Transcom meeting on November 3rd of this month. Located here on our map, Parkway Boulevard. Included in the packet of materials was a letter from West Valley City noting their agreement for the increase. And our next item, 8A-10, is a project combination, again, information only. 2 project combinations, both located in Region 2, the SR-90 Guardsman Pass and SR-190 SR-210 to Milepost 8, combining those 2 projects. And then the US-40 I-80 to SR-248 and US-40 SR-248 interchange. Again, combining them. The above tables show the 2 project combinations. These individual projects have previously been approved through commission action. Project combinations are done to provide efficiency in project deliveries. And that is all for me today.
Thank you. Wonderful job. Okay. Item number 9, we have 2023 internal audit plan review. And our dear friend Shane Young will be presenting that item.
Thank you for having me this morning. My name is Shane Young. I'm the Internal Audit Director for the Utah Department of Transportation. I love going after Ivan because I am not requesting any funds. But we hope that a couple of these projects will help us to not only increase efficiencies, but save some money for future projects. What you see here is the 2023 performance audit plan for information purposes only. And I just want to remind you of what we do as an internal audit division. We have 3 primary responsibilities for the department. We verify contract compliance and efficiency of work done by our external partners, which include our consultants, contractors, utility companies, and other partners that receive reimbursements through UDOT. We assess general risks for the department, and we have key responsibilities in areas and matters related to fraud, waste, and abuse. And by Utah code, as well as our own internal policy, we create performance audits. This requires your approval as a commission for us to proceed forward. So we're in compliance with audit standards as well as our own internal guidelines. And I wanted to present to you the 6 projects that we are proposing for the 2023 year. Just to give you an update from the 2022 project schedule, we have completed 2 projects that we'll present to you at a later date. The test work has been finished. One of them is on our right-of-way surplus process. The other one is related to an emerging risk we've seen for the last couple of years regarding workforce retention. We've pulled data and information that we are about to present to the agency, which may help us to understand how to adjust our workforce or have considerations so we can continue doing all of these great projects that you're seeing here throughout the state. And so I'm looking forward to presenting that soon to you. I'll go over each one of these just briefly with you. The first 2 projects are actually underway. These are rollovers from 2022. The first one is on personally identifiable information. With the amount of data that we store at UDOT, there's always a concern and risk that we are at risk of potentially exposing personal data, which could be anything from protected, confidential information. And so this is a great measure for us to determine if our safeguards and IT security controls are aligned with the amount of information that we process as a DOT. The test work has been underway on this, and so we're well into evaluating the systems that have personally identifiable information, ways that we can interface with the public if there's a breach, or questions they may have about how UDOT uses information that's sensitive in nature. The
Yes.
second project is regarding UDOT
Shane,
reimbursements.
we have a
Oh,
question.
sorry.
I'm intrigued by that first item and understanding that UDOT is one of many Utah agencies. How do we learn from other agency audits or how do we share what we learn on a statewide basis? How might some of that work?
That's a good question. So there are general standards that we're required to follow as an executive agency. So we work with our partner, the Department of Technology Services, and they have guidelines that we comply with. Each agency is going to have a unique set of data. So if we're the Department of Health, there's a lot of protected information that's medical related. So there's federal medical requirements like HIPAA. Ours could have a variety of different types of data sets. And what we can do is if we identify certain controls that are universal, then we can certainly share it with other agencies, and we can pull from what other agencies do to see if there's best practices that we can also implement. Often they're written in statute or some guideline that the governor's office would like us to follow, and then we try our best to adhere to that, as well as our federal requirements that dictate how we maintain custody of sensitive information.
It's great. Thank you.
I will note that I meet with the other internal audit directors on a quarterly basis to talk about best practices.
You guys are a fun group, aren't you?
Oh, we like to party. Yeah. No, we're actually not that exciting, but we do share practices, and we convey that to, for example, the state audit office or the legislative auditors to let them know that these are areas that are important to us, because they may also have a project or a focus in these particular areas. So we partner with them and allow them to see what we do. And it's an open book. We want to be transparent, and we're always open to recognizing those process improvement. No, thank you. And I'm happy to stop in any time. My goal was to go through the 6 and then reserve questions, but please interject so I don't just keep rambling on. The second one is regarding UDOT reimbursements. We have planned this audit already. There's a couple of areas that we've recognized as risk exposures. As you know, UDOT cannot survive without the partnership of consultants and contractors that make up the majority of the work we do. And so there are significant federal and state requirements to ensure that when we reimburse and fund our partners, that it's done in accordance with federal requirements and state requirements, and certainly to UDOT standards. There are controls in place, but it's always good for us to go back and evaluate, is it sufficient and adequate for the increase of work that we're seeing in today's transportation era. And so this is a larger project because of the breadth. And so we're going to try and scope it down in a way to hit the highest risk areas and hopefully provide some good process improvement recommendations, as well as acknowledge some good work that we're doing with the way we maintain custody of public funds. Stormwater compliance, this is one that is also from the 2022 list that we continue to roll over for this upcoming year. We have 115 maintenance stations, and each of them are required to follow certain provisions for stormwater drainage and compliance with an agreement we have with environmental quality. And there's a high risk if we're non-compliant that we could have to cease operations until we meet compliance. And so because of the work our maintenance stations do, there's we don't want unforeseen or external influences to hinder the work we do. I'm actually excited for this one. So often when people think of audit, we always look for where the glass is half empty. It could be 99.9% full, which is excellent, but we are always good at exposing why that 0.01% is such a bad thing. In this case, with stormwater compliance, there's a lot of provisions that have been made over the last few years. We're actually excited to report on the progress we have made from the time that we signed the agreement to the things that are working well, and we will certainly look for process improvement opportunities. But I think it's important to note with performance audit, when we think about performance, it's not only what we could do better, but highlighting the things that we're already doing well. So this will be a great one for us to be able to provide assurances on the measures that are already taking place and the things that we can certainly do as next steps. Any questions on it before I move on? I'm terrible with questions, so please just guide me along. Number 4 and 5 is directly regarded to construction, change orders and inspection reports. Much like what I've already said, there are a lot of requirements in terms of the frequency and the quality of inspections that we have to follow. We rely on contractors and consultants to help us in this area if we don't have the bandwidth to do so. And these two risks are really tied to, with the emerging amount of projects that we're doing, is the current infrastructure adequate to ensure that we are meeting the requirements in these two areas? Change orders has a risk, for example, if something's being improved that was outside of the scope, is it appropriate for the initial intent of the project? And again, these are potential risks where we haven't found evidences of wrongdoing, so therefore we're pursuing it. But I think these are areas where we can say these things happen a lot during a project life cycle. Let's ensure that it's done the way that we expect it to be done to, again, maintain trust and the compliance that we're required to follow. The last one is regarding subrecipient monitoring. As you know, UDOT is what we call a passive entity for several partners to receive funds through us. Sometimes it happens through the state, where the state will say, UDOT, you take the money, you're the custodian, you're going to pass it along. And other times it comes from the federal level. And we have tremendous amount of trust with these partners who are classified as a subrecipient under federal requirements. And it's a good way for us to say, well, with the amount of money that's going through to our partners, is our oversight appropriate and adequate for what's going on today? And I think this particular one will provide some really great results, because we've always had this responsibility, but I don't think we've ever been able to delineate it in a way to explain what do we do as a DOT as a whole in terms of our expectations and how we provide appropriate oversight to those who receive funds from us. If you notice, there are 6 because of the different responsibilities we have as an internal audit team. We feel like these 6, though, will provide a lot of value. We met with our process owners, our senior leadership team, as well as our executive director and deputies, and we're confident that these projects will help us to continue moving forward and will strengthen what we do here at UDOT. Any questions I can answer?
Shane, that was very interesting. Fun bunch or not, it's important to get that done. What was your comment about right-of-way and surplus properties? Because Commissioner Menlove and I both serve on that committee, and it's been an amazing example for the rest of the country. Just what is your status with that one? I didn't quite catch the specifics.
The test work that we have done has been finished, and part of our way of making sure that we provide a good product is that we have a peer review process where we have someone else independent go and evaluate our conclusions, the work that we've done, if it's sufficient and adequate, and it's under that process right now.
On the right-of-way, surplus properties.
On the right-of-way, and once we finalize the report, we will publish it and then provide copies, and I'd like to present the outcome of that in an upcoming commission meeting once we're ready to do so.
Look forward to that. Thank you. Go ahead.
What's the, you mentioned the coordination which you have quarterly. What's the relationship or tie-in with the state auditor's office?
Well, we have a couple of tie-ins. So the Department of Transportation goes through a single audit from the state auditor's office. So you have 2 key branches. The legislative auditors are the performance auditors that report to the legislature, and they can choose any project they want. And often we get tied into it based on circumstances in our control and outside of our control. The state auditors are required to do a financial review of all of the funds that we spend for federal monies as well as state. So we meet with them annually. Our team in internal audit will often provide the documentation or information that they need to do their test work. And that partnership right now is really exceptional. If you think about the amount of money UDOT spends, we're over $1 billion annual agency. We're really high risk because of the amount of money. But the last 2 single state audits came back with 0 exceptions, which is extremely, extremely unusual. But it makes partnership easy because I don't have to then interface and say, tell me about this finding or recommendation you have. And then in their eyes, it also reduces their risk level. So instead of having annual reviews that they're required to do, if we were high risk, they will do a 3-year review. So they'll look at smaller grants that are under our purview, they'll sample them, test it, interface with us and give us an outcome. But then for the bigger fund, like the Highway Fund 2205, they'll do that every 3 years and do very comprehensive, extensive testing. So right now, I think our relationship with our external auditing partners is top notch.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, yes. Commissioner Mello, go ahead, please.
Yes, I applaud what you're doing, and this looks really great and thorough. I just had a question about whether or not you compare what other states are doing, if you've looked at their procedures, if you have a national level organization that you're collaborating with. I just was curious about that. Not that I'm questioning what you're doing, because it looks very thorough to me and excellent.
Yes, I can answer that question in a couple of ways. As an internal audit organization, we follow generally accepted auditing standards as our guiding principle. We call it Yellow Book. Most other DOT internal audit organizations follow this. The second thing is when we are doing comparisons, UDOT is unique in a couple of ways. One is we have a higher amount of state funds than some of our partners that rely principally on federal funds, and then they supplement with remaining state funds. And so there's a lot of latitude we have as a DOT. Plus, we are generally lean in comparison to others. So comparing processes one for one, if you're looking at projects like right-of-way, for example, I can guarantee you the way we sell surplus property is entirely different if I were to do a survey from 5 other states, and it may not be very applicable unless there's a best practice out there that we want to adopt. But in terms of the way we do things as an internal audit organization, we have national organizations that we connect with, like AASHTO and WSHTO. I'm actually part of a subcommittee for AASHTO, where we evaluate auditing standards for other DOTs. And so I work with all 50 states regarding that matter. Plus, we meet collectively, periodically, to talk about emerging risks and concerns that impact the way we evaluate DOTs and our partners. I hope that answered your question. It seemed pretty broad, but did I meet the mark on that?
Yes, you answered my question. That was great.
Yes.
If I could just add to what Shane said, because as part of the partnership with AASHTO, every 3 years, every state audit team brings in some peer groups from other state DOTs, auditors, to review the actual audit process. And so Shane has participated as a member of, one of those teams that goes to other states, provides that overview. And that's really been a good learning process for us.
I serve as a co-chair of that committee, and I'll be the chair next year for AASHTO in leading that effort. And it's a great partnership opportunity because other DOT audit agencies are always asking, what are other states doing as well? And how can we be better? And this is a great way for us to do a high-level evaluation and really continue to build that partnership as we address common challenges and issues that are going on around us.
Thank
By
you.
way of disclosure, thank you. By way of disclosure, I serve on the audit committee with Shane and Carlos, and I'm so grateful. We have kind of like a third eye or a second eye, whatever the eye that we have to watch, so-called the cracks and potholes of the operation aspect of the regions and our sheds, because that way we know that exactly we are safe. And I've talked to several of those region directors and the shed managers. They welcome Shane and his committee and his audit, I guess, representative to come and let them know what's going on. So it is not like hiding process, it's like welcome and let us know what we can do to improve our system. Thank you, Shane.
Well, thank you. And I'll just echo the support is mutual. We cannot do what we do without the support of our senior leaders and the members of the UDOT team. They've been very supportive of us, and we appreciate their willingness to let us evaluate. It's not comfortable to have an auditor come ask you what you're doing. So we try and highlight the good that the folks here at UDOT does, just as much as we identify those areas where we can improve.
I'm sure it's better than the IRS agents calling and you don't.
I would hope so. Not too high of a bar to exceed beyond that. So the projects are here for information purposes today, and I'd like to return in December and answer any additional questions you have or any projects that you think of that might be noteworthy for us to focus on for the upcoming year for your approval.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you.
Item number 10, we have administrative rule review. The first we will hear from Nathan Lee, and he will be followed by Leif Elder.
Good morning, Commission. Nathan Lee. Just waiting for him to change the fact sheets here and information for you. I'm here by way of information regarding UDOT's administrative rule R9926-17, or better known as the road usage charge rule. In 2019, this rule was established along with the rule that Leif presented to you about that the commission had a month ago. This rule deals with the operations of the program. In the last 3 years, there have been numerous changes in legislation that make slight effects to this rule, as well as some terms have been changed. And so this rule goes through and cleans up all of those terms, makes them consistent with the various code sections that are there, and it addresses 2 specific changes. The first change that it addresses is for people that enroll in the program to not pay the fees that they normally would pay at registration, but never quite get enrolled to where they can be charged in the program. And so the fees remain uncollected. That's a problem for us because we have a stewardship to make sure that that portion is received. The other can happen is that if they're enrolled in the program and they leave the program, but they haven't paid the resident fee that's required for them if they don't want to be in the program themselves. So the rule has addressed both those clarifications to make that work in conjunction with the DMV, and that's the substantive changes that are within the rule. Any questions?
How does the public know that they're subject to these rule changes?
So anyone that enrolls in the program is giving all of the criteria associated with such program, and all of the participants that are in the program, if they want to withdraw, are notified about what the eligible requirements are to withdraw.
So when they register their car, they're given these options.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So when you register with the DMV, you choose the road usage option, and at that point, you're given the agreement that allows you to work with the account manager who does the collections for them for their mileage. All mileage in our state is collected by electronic means. We don't allow any other methods. There's lots of electronic means they can use. They're all done by electronic.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Heather. Leif Elder with UDOT Legislative Affairs and Policy. This is I'd say a little bit of a cleanup. We brought this rule before you. It was a kind of a rewrite of our administrative procedures rule. And our attorneys noted that there were few pieces that were intended to be in that rule, which is now live and active, that were left out of this rule. And so the rule that allowed for, under certain circumstances, for the department to use an administrative law judge. And this rule would expand those circumstances for when the department may use an administrative law judge. Were required by statute that passed in the 2022 sessions to use an administrative law judge in certain circumstances, primarily when there's a taking that amounts to more than $50,000 at stake. And this is just other circumstances where we might hold a hearing or some sort of administrative hearing to mediate an issue that's happening. And in some cases, it makes sense to use an administrative law judge instead of having one of our region directors or one of our UDOT employees involved with that. And so this is just a small expansion of when we can use those administrative law judges. So go ahead, please.
What are the qualifications of an administrative law judge?
Okay, so we put out an RFP because we knew we were going to need to use these administrative law judges. So we wanted a pool for those judges. So we put out an RFP with some requirements. And really, you want somebody with, so these are legal firms that have applied for that. We only got one applicant, but we deemed them to be qualified. They have legal experience in doing mediation and these kinds of hearings. It's nice if they have some transportation experience. And in this case, I believe that applicant did, but you're really just looking for somebody who has some experiences, maybe showing good judgment in a mediation type setting. There were several other probably requirements for that RFP, but that was put out bid. So we have a very small pool right now for to draw on administrative law judges.
Great, thank you.
So their decision is final, or there's the appeal process if the party is not satisfied?
Yeah, I believe that can still, after the decision of the administrative law judge, that could be appealed to the courts. So, yeah, usually, and I'm sure Charles has mentioned this a number of times, in his area with the right of way, we're usually settling and we don't even make it to the administrative law judge phase. So it's hopefully not something that we have to do very often because we can do that before that we get to that point. So.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Next item of agenda is the information items on the number 11, and that's commission committee reports. I will start to my right, Kevin, Commissioner Van Tassel. We have any committee reports?
Attended the meeting with Wasatch Regional Council. We're seeing some of their work coming through and fulfilling that commitment.
Thank you. Commissioner Law?
I have nothing to report.
Nothing to report this time.
Okay.
I don't have anything to report except for the state's Utah Population Committee met this week. They do the official population estimates for our state. They'll make a public release of the numbers, but a net immigration up in this state, which really surprised me. I won't give a number, but it's north of 35,000 and just under 40,000, but big deal. So I just think it's relevant to all the growth and pressures that we're feeling.
Thank you.
People are still moving here.
Commissioner Menlove, report.
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kramer?
Report, I just picked up some more Oreos in the back. Yeah. We did not have a quarter preservation meeting, but we sure do have a great quarter preservation program. So again, thanks for the service in that.
And I also had a meeting with the Dixie MPO last Tuesday with Monty and the rest of the UDOT family, and they are sending their love and appreciation for UDOT with all the projects they've done in southern Utah. And they talked about the regional works that they're doing with between the cities and working together, and national trails, or the network of the trails, was the topic of the conversation. And on my CIB Community Impact Board, we had a November 3rd meeting. We have another 5 projects. Smallest one, 350,000, the big one, 15 million. So that's my report. Next committee, let's see, Transportation Commission meeting is the last of the year, December 16th. We'll have it in the complex. And the commission has received the invitation. Right after meeting, we'll have the, let's see, holiday luncheon. As the header, we received the invitation officially, so if you have not RSVP, please do so. You can bring a significant others or whatever you want to call to the meetings or to the luncheon. And what else? Is there anything you want us to talk about that particular one? It will be catered, right? Okay. Any other reports from the commissions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, please.
I know we've got a group of people here, but I listened into a lot of the transportation meeting that was held Wednesday. And I think that it appears to be that there's some improvements coming to corridor preservation, that if I'm reading the committee right, will be passed and it'll come to the floor, and I think it'll make some significant improvements for us. And allows us more, plus gives us some staff. So just make that comment.
Thank you. Anything from the UDOT? Carlos, Terry, Lisa? Region directors, deputies? We love you. The Thanksgiving is coming. We wish you the best for yourself and your family members. And if you're going to be traveling, please travel safe and come home safe. We need you. And anything we can do as a commission to make your job easy, we have good listening ears. We love you, really, truly. And when we drive, as Commissioner Kramer says so many times, we pay attention to those that are really sacrificing their lives on the state behalf. We recognize your hard work. We recognize all you do to make every inch, not just a mile, every inch of the road safe for all of us to travel. And some of us travel long, and we see the hard work. Know that commission listens to you. We pray for you, for your family, always. And we recognize your hard work. Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving to you all. I need a last motion, please. Anyone?
So moved.
Adjourn.